Rain hammered the glass windows of the Manhattan penthouse as 18-year-old Emily Carter hurried through her college essay, unaware that her life was about to twist into darkness. Her billionaire father was in Washington for a corporate hearing, her mother was abroad at a charity gala, and for the first time in months the house felt quiet, too quiet. When the power suddenly flickered and went out, Emily assumed it was the storm. But when she heard deliberate footsteps behind her in the supposedly secured apartment, a cold fear crawled up her back. Before she could scream, a gloved hand covered her mouth and another grabbed her wrist. She fought hard. Emily had always been strong, but the intruder moved with precision, as if he knew every inch of the place. A black hood went over her head, and she was dragged toward the service elevator. Emily's heart raced, panic rising. She didn't understand how anyone bypassed the building's security. She didn't know that the person who helped plan this kidnapping wasn't a stranger at all, but someone sharing her last name. She was shoved into the back of a van, wrists zip-tied, ankles bound, breathing fast under the suffocating hood. The engine roared and the van sped into the storm. Emily tried to track turns, bumps, sounds, anything, but rain drowned everything. Hours felt like minutes, and minutes felt like hours. When they finally stopped, she was dragged into what smelled like an old warehouse, rust, oil, and damp wood. The hood was ripped off. 3 masked men stood around her, one holding a camera, the other preparing a phone. "Your father will pay," the tallest one said. His voice was disguised, but his posture carried authority. Emily glared at him, chest rising with fear and anger. They recorded a ransom video. Emily tied to a chair, her face bruised from the struggle, a knife resting against her shoulder. $50 million, the masked leader demanded. Wire it within 48 hours. Or the girl dies. They shut off the camera, and Emily noticed something chilling. None of them seemed nervous. This wasn't a desperate crime, it was planned professionally. Emily was locked inside a small room created out of metal panels, with nothing but a dirty mattress and a flickering bulb. A security camera blinked in the corner, recording her every move. She tested her restraints, tried to loosen the ropes, but failed. As she lay shivering, she remembered how her parents' wealth had always attracted jealousy and tension inside the family. Her uncle Daniel, her father's younger brother, had been cut out of the company 2 years ago after embezzlement accusations. She prayed he wasn't involved, but fear whispered otherwise. Back in Washington, billionaire businessman Richard Carter received the video while sitting with federal investigators. His face drained of color as he watched his daughter plead for help. Agents immediately launched an investigation, analyzing the background, lighting, and audio. But Richard's mind was stuck on one disturbing thought: someone had bypassed his secure penthouse. Someone who knew the building. Someone with access. Meanwhile, the ransom countdown had already begun. Richard agreed to cooperate with the FBI, but the father inside him was boiling with rage and desperation. At the warehouse, Emily observed everything quietly. She noticed the leader always checked his left wrist, as if hiding a scar under his glove. She noticed they avoided mentioning names, but one of them slipped and said, "Boss will be here tomorrow." She also noticed that one man, short and nervous, avoided hurting her and constantly looked guilty. When he brought food, Emily whispered, "Help me, please." He froze, shaking, and whispered back, "I'm sorry, I didn't know they would involve family." Emily's blood ran cold. Family. The next afternoon, the warehouse shook as a black SUV pulled in. Heavy boots approached. Emily's door opened, and the masked leader stepped aside as another man entered, tall, expensive suit, familiar scent. When he removed his mask, Emily felt physically sick. It was indeed her uncle Daniel. "You grew up privileged," he said coldly. "While I was pushed aside. Your father owes me this fortune." Emily stared at him, disgusted. "Kidnapping me won't fix your failures." Daniel slapped her with controlled fury, then smirked. "Your father will pay. He always does." Daniel ordered his men to move Emily to a new location before the FBI traced the warehouse. She was thrown back into the van, hands trembling as panic returned. But as they drove, the nervous kidnapper, whose name she overheard as Miguel, kept glancing at her through the rearview mirror. Finally, he whispered, "There's a tracker under the van. FBI placed it earlier. Don't react." Emily kept her expression blank, heart pounding. Miguel then deliberately swerved near a highway rest stop, slowing down so the FBI could catch up. Moments later, sirens erupted. The van swerved wildly as the masked leader shouted, "Drive faster." But Miguel purposely slowed. Agents surrounded the vehicle. Gunshots shattered the air. The leader grabbed Emily, pressed a gun to her temple, and dragged her out as a shield. "Back off or she dies," he screamed. Agents demanded he drop the weapon. Emily, shaking, whispered, "Your left wrist, the scar." The leader flinched instinctively, loosening his grip for half a second. That was enough. A sniper's shot rang out, hitting his arm. Emily broke free, running toward the agents, collapsing into their arms. The remaining kidnappers were arrested except Daniel, who had fled hours earlier. Richard arrived by helicopter, rushing toward Emily, hugging her so tightly she nearly cried from relief. She clung to his coat, trembling as the storm finally cleared above them. But the nightmare wasn't over. FBI agents informed Richard that Daniel had crossed state lines and was heading toward an unknown safehouse. Emily begged them to catch him, terrified he might try again. For the next 24 hours, Emily and her father stayed under FBI protection in a secured safehouse in Virginia. Emily could barely sleep. Every shadow felt like danger. Agents questioned her for details: Daniel's behavior, the warehouse layout, the nervous kidnapper's help. Meanwhile, special units tracked Daniel's stolen SUV across state borders. They intercepted a call where Daniel tried arranging a private plane out of the country, confirming he wasn't done running. Emily sat beside her father, head on his shoulder, feeling a strange mix of fear and strength. The FBI cornered Daniel at a private airstrip in North Carolina. Helicopters circled overhead as agents blocked the runway. Daniel tried to run, firing wildly, but was quickly disarmed. Emily watched the arrest live on a secured feed. She broke down, not from fear this time, but from relief. "He was family," she whispered. Richard held her hand. "Family is who protects you, not who betrays you." The nightmare had finally ended, and justice was delivered. Daniel was charged with kidnapping, extortion, and attempted murder. Weeks later, Emily returned to her Manhattan home, now heavily secured. She started therapy, rebuilt her sense of safety, and leaned closer to her father than ever. She wrote a statement encouraging stronger laws for kidnapping victims and secretly thanked Miguel, who cooperated with authorities and took a plea deal. Emily looked out over the city lights one evening, the same view she had before the kidnapping. But now, she wasn't afraid. She had survived betrayal, violence, and fear, and emerged stronger. Her story wasn't one of wealth, but resilience.